So, believe it or not, tomorrow is the beginning of this upcoming edition of the CONCACAF Champions League. As tomorrow we are going to have the first two game in the CONCACAF Champions League. That is going to be Portland Timbers versus Marathon, and then Atlanta United play against Alajuelense. And of course, I will have the review for both of those matches tomorrow, and I also will have pretty much all the CONCACAF Champions League review that an MLS team basically is involved. But today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video looking at which of these five MLS teams that's going to be in this year's edition of the CONCACAF Champions League that is going to go the furthest. And you notice I didn't say who exactly has the best chance of winning the tournament because, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not, if this is actually going to be finally the year that an MLS team finally break that CCL curse and become the first ever MLS team to win this competition. And that I want to refrain from saying that this is finally the year because, I know a lot of people have always said every single time when the CONCACAF Champions League is going to begin, and they said, this is finally the year. This is finally the year that an MLS team win the competition. And then in reality, it turns out to be a huge disappointment, and at the end of the tournament, it's still going to be just a Liga MX team winning this whole competition. So that's why I'm just basically saying who will actually go furthest, not necessarily which of these five teams most likely has the best chance of winning the CONCACAF Champions League. Now, that being said, there could also be a possibility that this might be the year that an MLS team could win a CONCACAF Champions League, and especially this year, what is unique about this season with CCL is that it's basically spread out throughout the entire year, and that we no longer have this situation where the CONCACAF Champions League is taking place in March and April. And one of the big reason why a lot of people say that maybe MLS team don't do well in this competition, especially against Liga MX's opponent, is because a lot of these teams are still in preseason or early season mode, whereas they're going to be facing against Liga MX team that is already in mid-season form. And at least when we do get to the quarterfinal and into the semifinal and deeper into the CONCACAF Champions League, we're no longer going to have that factor where MLS team is going to have to be facing against a Liga MX team in preseason mode, as most of those teams should be in mid-season form, and we shall see whether or not if that gives an advantage to MLS team. I mean, I don't want to say that definitely give the advantage for MLS team, because remember how last year when the competition basically was delayed because of the pandemic and then basically restarted in the quarterfinal in December down in Orlando. And a lot of people say the MLS team had a huge advantage doing that because they're playing virtually in an MLS stadium and playing against Liga MX's opponent with no fans whatsoever, and that these teams don't have to actually go down to Mexico and face against these Liga MX's opponent in a hostile environment. And yeah, that advantage basically was not true whatsoever, and it turns out that if it wasn't for LAFC that really carried the flag for MLS and basically gone all the way to the final before falling to Tigres in the final of the CONCACAF Champions League, that would have been a disaster tournament for MLS team in the CONCACAF Champions League, and really kind of just maybe push back the argument of the fact that maybe MLS team has started to be on point of what Liga MX's opponent is right now. But that being said, let us actually get into this video, and that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a rankings where I'm going to look at which team exactly is going to go the furthest, at number 5 being probably the one that is going to be eliminated in the first round. 2 at number 1, they're probably going to be the one that's going to go furthest and maybe even go all the way to the final to have a chance to win the CONCACAF Champions League this season. Now, at number 5, I'm going to say Toronto FC. And it's not that TFC is the weakest team out of these 5 teams that I see coming into this CONCACAF Champions League. I mean, they do have some good talent and especially some experience with them being in this competition. I think one of the most out of these 5 teams. Well, actually, it's not one of the most. They are the most experienced team in the CONCACAF Champions League compared to these 5 teams. But the reason why I say they're probably the least likeliest to make it far into the CONCACAF Champions League is that they have the toughest opponent to face in the first round, and unfortunately has the dubious honor of facing a Liga MX team that is Lyon in the first round. And while Lyon this season, I think I said before how they kind of struggle early in the Liga MX Clausura season. Recently, I have saw some of their resort, and they have definitely look much better and look like the Leon's side that, of course, won Liga MX Torres season. And no doubt that they definitely are going to be fancy themselves against a TFC side that, as I said before, I still have a lot of question in terms of this main core of this Toronto team and whether or not if it's going to be good enough to not only go far in this tournament but also for this upcoming season. Are they going to be a team that can sustain the form that they were last year, which was competing for a supporter shield? I mean, when you look at this attack, unless if Pozuelo could be basically go into Javinko form, or Josie Altidore decide to go back to his old form that he has, we could potentially see TFC have a good chance to knock off Lyon, but still, that is definitely a huge task to ask. And last year when LAFC played against Lyon, I know LAFC did eventually win the two-legged affair, but Lyon really pushed LAFC to its brink, and if it wasn't for LAFC able to win their return leg and able to pull out a miraculous comeback of a 3-0 victory against Lyon after going down 2-0 in the first leg, LAFC would have been the latest team to suffer an early exit because they have to face against a Liga MX opponent in the first round. But unfortunately, Toronto is nowhere near the quality that LAFC was last season when they play against Lyon, and therefore I just don't see how they're probably going to make it far in this tournament. But now at number 4, I am going to say the Portland Timbers. Now, the Timbers, I think out of these 5 teams, they're definitely one of the more talented team that could potentially go far in this tournament. So you wonder why exactly I put them very low here in this ranking. Well, the answer to that is that they have to play against Club America if they were able to beat Marathon. And, I wouldn't say they have to play against Club America unless if Club America doesn't screw up in the first round. It's pretty much destined that the Timbers are going to be playing against America in the quarterfinal. And while we have seen before MLS team have been able to beat America in this competition in the past couple of years, most noticeably last year with LAFC able to beat America and pretty much embarrass America in that game, and also embarrass Miguel Herrera, which ultimately cost him his job at America last season. This is definitely a different America team, and I think this America team is definitely going to be stronger than the one that LAFC faced last season. And when I look at this Timbers team, yes, this team does have some good attacking talent. It does definitely have some difference maker with the likes of Diego Valeri, Jeremy Abobasi, and maybe Sebastian Blanco if the rumors of the fact that he is going to be ready to be playing in the CONCACAF Champions League or return to the squad, even though he just suffered that torn ACL a couple of months ago. But yeah, that game against Club America in the quarterfinal, that I think that is probably even tougher than what TFC have to do face against Lyon. And that, if the Timbers are able to pull off an upset, then maybe they could definitely rise a little bit higher in my rankings, because if they are able to beat Club America, who exactly they might face next? Oh, I needed to double check the bracket who they might face. Oh, I know. They might have to face against these next 2 teams that I'm of course going to mention in the rankings, in case if they of course go as far as in the semifinal. And at number 3, one of that team could be the Philadelphia Union. So for the Union, I think there's no doubt that they are probably the weakest team out of these 5 teams coming into this CONCACAF Champions League. And this is no disrespect in terms of this Union team, and that, no disrespect the fact that they're a team that maybe shouldn't belong in this tournament, but it's just that when you look at their squad, and especially with some of those key players that they lost this offseason with Brendan Aronson, Mark McKenzie, and also Ray Gaddis recently announced his retirement. Those are some big pieces that they lost throughout this offseason, and the fact that they didn't really replace them, well, I would say that they're trying to maybe replace them with a couple of guys from their academy that, we still don't know whether or not if they're going to be as good as those players that, of course, also came out of the Union Academy and turns out to be an absolute hit for when they are in in the senior roster. And not to mention, when you look at their road to the final, the first game against Saprissa, I know I said before Saprissa was going to be a tough opponent against the Union, because Saprissa in years past, they have shown to be a very tough opponent to face, and probably one, if not the best Central American team that Liga MX team and MLS team have to face. But when I look at the table in the Costa Rican League this season, Saprissa actually is not doing very well. I mean, they're actually third in the Costa Rican League, and it's actually Alajuelense who, as I mentioned before, that they're going to be facing Atlanta. That is probably going to be now the team that is probably the toughest in the tournament. But let's say if the Union does beat Saprissa, there could be a possibility that they could be facing against Atlanta or Alajuelense, and I just don't see how when those two matches that they are going to be facing off against each other, those are going to be two teams that the Union is probably gonna be not consider the favorites, and it's going to be also probably equally as tough as them facing against Saprissa in the first round. So yeah, I have the Union in third place, but let's say maybe if they do beat Atlanta or Alajuelense and Saprissa, then they of course could be facing against America, unless if the Timbers are able to cause an upset on that. And if they do play against the Timbers, again, I still think the Timbers probably has the upper hand over the Union if both of those teams are going to be meeting in the semifinals, which I think it's probably going to be very least likely that that's going to happen, and a lot of things has to go right. But now at number 2, I am going to say Atlanta United. Now, I know, as I said before, with Atlanta playing against Alajuelense, they probably have one of the toughest, and I think if it wasn't for TFC playing against a Liga MX team, they probably have the toughest draw in the first round of this season CONCACAF Champions League, because Alajuelense, they are actually currently the leader in the Costa Rican League, and actually are undefeated this season in the Costa Rican League. And against Atlanta team that I know this season they have definitely made a lot of signings to try to improve this team, and most importantly, they're going to get Joseph back for this game against Alajuelense. And I know Joseph Martinez is definitely going to be eager to be back playing, and I have a feeling he's going to be playing with a chip on his shoulder with the way that he is working his way, and had a long road back to basically trying to be back to match fitness, and also be that lethal goal scorer that he have shown for the first couple of seasons with Atlanta. There's no doubt that I think he's going to be guy that's going to really help this Atlanta attack. But the thing is, that game against Alajuelense, as I mentioned, of them facing against a really tough team, and a team that still have yet to lose a game this season in the Costa Rican League, that's definitely not going to be an easy task. But if they are able to beat Alajuelense and beat right now probably the hottest team in Central America, and probably the toughest team right now in Central America, their road to the final isn't really going to be that hard, because there could be a situation where they could be playing against Saprissa, or we're going to see an all MLS quarterfinal matchup in the CONCACAF Champions League against the Union. And if that is the case, I say Atlanta has the advantage over the Union. And then the very next match, they could potentially face either the Timbers or even Club America. And I know for sure if Atlanta United is going to be facing against Club America, boy oh boy, that is going to be a very exciting semifinal. And Atlanta wants revenge, and wants to amends of what happened last year when they weren't able to beat Club America. Well, actually they did. I think they did beat Club America, and they did beat them in the second leg, but it wasn't enough to overcome a 3-0 deficit that they suffered in the first leg. And again, this is definitely a team that wants to make amends of what happened last year in the CONCACAF Champions League, and hope that this might be a year where they can actually go the furthest out of any other team in this competition. But for the team that I think could go the furthest in this competition, it's got to be Columbus. And I said it before, where not only the fact that the Crew are probably going to be the best team this season, and the team that is going to be favorites of winning the Supporters Shield, because they're just so deep in their roster, and there's just so much talent in their roster. When you're able to be deep and able to have a lot of talent in your roster, not only that will help you in your league form, but also could help you in the CONCACAF Champions League too. One of the things that has been a big issue for MLS team is the fact that when a lot of these MLS teams don't have a very deep squad, when they do play in a CONCACAF Champions League, they have to kind of like balance the schedule and balance the fitness of these players that maybe have to play a lot of minutes and have to play at their 100% both in the league and in the CONCACAF Champions League in a short amount of period. And we see multiple times when that happens, it usually leads to the downfall of these MLS teams that probably when they do have a tough when they had a game on the weekend where they had a really physical game in an elite match, they pretty much are weared out once they of course go into that CONCACAF Champions League midweek. I don't think this is going to happen to the Crew because, again, they just have so much depth in their team. They pretty much are 2 deep or even 3 deep in some of their position. Now, I will say with the Crew, their road to the final and their road to potentially go deep into this CONCACAF Champions League is definitely one of the toughest. I mean, besides them playing against Estella in the first round, the very next round they could be playing Monterrey in the quarterfinal. And I know Rayados this season, they're definitely having a good season in Liga MX, and there always tends to be a team that do well in the CONCACAF Champions League. So that's definitely no easy task. And let's say if the Crew is able to beat Rayados, then their next challenge is going to be another Liga MX team, and I believe it's either going to be Cruz Azul or Leon that they're going to be facing. And those 2 teams are also teams that you definitely don't want to face in the CONCACAF Champions League unless you want to face them maybe in the final or in the semi-final. But still, you know, I said this before with teams that wants to go deep in the CONCACAF Champions League and wants to maybe get to the final, you just cannot avoid these tough Liga MX teams. Like, you might have a chance to avoid them maybe in the early rounds, but when it's times to get to the business end of the CONCACAF Champions League, when we do get to the semi-final and get into the final of this competition, we're going to see a lot of times where MLS team will have to face the likes of Club America, Cruz Azul, or even Leon or what was the other team that was in this Monterrey that is. So these are going to be teams that I think if MLS team is going to potentially go to CCL final or even win this whole competition, all these teams will have to eventually face against these teams deep in the competition. Because from what I've seen in the past, most of these Liga MX team, and actually it's not most, but all of these Liga MX team usually don't just falter in the early rounds and cause themselves to be an embarrassment to their league by suffering a shocking defeat in the early round against a Central American or even a Caribbean team in this year's sake. So yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much my rankings in terms of looking at which team I think could go furthest in CCL this season. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this rankings? Do you agreed with this rankings? Did I rank some of the team a little bit too high that I think could go furthest in CCL, or did I rank some teams a little bit too low to potentially go far in CCL this season? But let me know in the comments below. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.